No one saw this coming. In what has been a couple of really disappointing years for the Toronto Blue Jays and their prospects, we have a couple of new rankings that have dropped that has fans very excited surrounding a few key players that could change the landscape of the Jays going forward. We're going to break that down as well as discuss a few prospects a lot of fans aren't talking about. But before we get into it, as you can see, we have a special guest today, Avery. His link will be in the description, obviously from Gate 14. Avery, first of all, thank you very much for joining us today. And we're going to be talking prospects, something that you're very familiar with. Let's dive right into it. Now, the lists for the Jays top 100 prospects, there hasn't really been many in these lists for the MLB top 100 prospects. No Jays have been in there over the past little bit, but lately there's been a big surge of Jays prospects. In this case, and I want to get your thoughts on this, we have Jake Bloss, Arjun Amala, and Ricky T breaking Fangraphs top 100 prospects here. It's extremely interesting, and there seems to be a big upturn. And thank you again for joining the channel.
No problem. Thank you for having me. There's been a nice little change when it comes to the Jays prospects as of late. Everyone's like, okay, the system's so awful. It's so bad. And then we get some Baseball America love. We've been getting a decent amount of Fangraphs love. We had Zips projections come out today for top 100 prospects. The Jays had 5 players on that list. That was tied for 4th most. We're finding some love. I think there's some better top end guys than a lot of people think. So let's not be too hard on the system, but we are getting some good things happening from the prospect side, I think.
Yeah, and it's been a big change. I mean, the Jays, there was one point years and years ago, and they had a very good prospect system, Vladdy, Bo, and I don't even want to speak about both those guys because now we're obviously going to be potentially losing them. When it pertains to, you mentioned it, it's not just Fangraphs for what it's worth. Like you mentioned, Baseball America, it's a bunch of different things. There's been a huge surge. We have Ricky T now not breaking the top 100, but he's at 102 as an honorable mention. Obviously, he's going down with a bunch of injuries. But a couple of guys here, Arjun Amala has been a highly touted prospect for the Jays, and Jake Bloss. What do you think has contributed to the huge random surge of Jays prospects getting in, specifically these three? And we can also give credit a little bit. I know we hate to do it, but give credit to Ross Atkins for getting Jake Bloss, the #1 Jays prospect according to this now. You also have Trey Savage, who they drafted, who's going to be coming up. And we have a couple prospects later in the video that are under the radar a little bit here. But we're seeing Arjun Amala. He's obviously first-round pick, been talking about a lot. But Jake Bloss is one who's really been flying up the rankings in a lot of these prospect boards. And I think he has the most likely outcome here of actually being a contributor over the next year or two for the Jays.
Yeah, he's the closest. Like if you're not going to put a Relvis, Will Wagner in those, it's Jake Bloss. I'm kind of honestly surprised at some of the love that Jake Bloss gets because I'm just so Trey Savage pilled. I think he's the one who's going to be the higher end guy when we get to the major leagues. But Jake Bloss has done it. He's a guy who's 30 AAA innings. Like he got to the majors so quickly through Houston, struggled a little bit in his time there, then comes back to Buffalo and gets bombarded for a 6 ERA while he was here. But he has so many pitches. I think he's a 6-pitch guy. Slider, sweepers, the swing and miss stuff. And he's got like super great extension on his fastball. So that plays up. It's 95, but it plays up a tick too. He's decently polished too. He's going to be a solid strike thrower. So seeing the Bloss love is kind of interesting to me because I think there's some better guys in the system. Ricky T, obviously, like you talked about earlier, he gets put in his spot because he was injured. 102, they put him and River Ryan, 2 guys who were hurt, as 101, 102 to say, like, hey, these are good prospects. But I look at Ricky T as still the #1 guy, the highest ceiling, and by far the lowest floor of all of these guys. You get the brace surgery done. Tommy John, he can't throw 5 innings to save his life, but God, he has a left arm that has been blessed by Jesus himself. So I love like the fastball and sliders so good. It's a loopy slider. Let's see if it'll play at the big league level. I mean, you get pop out of the hand, the big leaguers are gonna have a better chance to hit that than the tight spinning slider. But I'm so in on Ricky T, and it might be a change in starting pitcher going to relieving. But again, the arm talent is definitely there.
Yeah, we think back to last spring training, and we had a glimpse of 99-mile-per-hour Ricky T blowing away MLB hitters.
It's so cool.
And it's a lefty. The Jays are desperately, lacking left-handed pitching. Even in the bullpen side, obviously, they made a couple of signings. Vladimir Guerrero, shout out to you guys for the scoop on that one. But yeah, I mean, Ricky T has the highest ceiling, and I mean, I think there's a good chance that Ricky T is just a really good bullpen guy, and that's the unfortunate reality of my thoughts on him, just given the injury history and things like that, which isn't horrible. I think they'll probably run into him a little bit. And I'm also with you on the Jake Bloss thing. I was very shocked to see him at 66. I feel like he's going to be a 3rd starter. Like, I feel like that's kind of where he's going to be at his prime, maybe a #2 guy. I don't necessarily see him as an
that's
ace.
that's a really good thing to be a third starter on a big league club, right? We'll take that any day of the week.
And let's not forget, we got two other guys with him in that trade for Yusei Kikuchi. So also very important big leaguers as well. So let us know out of these three down below, which you think is going to have the biggest impact in the future. Not this upcoming season, because obviously Ricky T is going to be out this year as well. And Arjun Amal, we'll have videos on him in the future because obviously he is going to be pretty far down the line. He's only 19 years old. And we can go over some of the guys that you wanted to speak about today, specifically regarding, being under the radar a little bit. And these are the Jays' top 10 prospects. Trey Savage is going to be an absolute animal. Orelvis Martinez as well. He is there's a world, I've been kind of preaching it here on the channel, where he breaks camp as the starting third baseman. I think they're probably going to go with Ernie Clement. I think that's the safest, the classic Ross Atkins option. I think it's going to go Ernie, but there has to be a world here where Orelvis Martinez makes some, breaks as well. But let's talk about some of the prospects, and we'll start with Josh Kasevich here. He is a guy who I've mentioned on the channel a while ago. His ETA is 2025. You can see some of his tools here by MLB Pipeline. What are your thoughts on this guy? He is a shortstop, maybe the shortstop of the future. Who knows? We also have Andres Jimenez now maybe slotting in there once Bo leaves. So there's a lot of interesting players.
So sorry there. Kasevich you're going to hate to hear this. He's a glove first player. He's a great defender. I was so shocked. He was the 2022 draft. He was the second round pick out of Oregon. It's like, why are we taking that style of player in the second round looking for some upside? But all he's done, he has totally turned out the way he wanted him to be. He's a high contact guy. He's a low striker. He's going to strike out around 10% and plays a really good shortstop. So there's the Baseball America guy, Jeff Pontus is his name. And he has done this thing all offseason where he just says, what does Jacob Wilson do better than Josh Kasevich? And Jacob Wilson's a top 35 prospect, the 6th overall pick in his draft. And it's just like, okay, there's a lot of players, and you can use this as a major league player. We talked about Ernie before. I think Josh Kasevich is the next style of Ernie if they ever get rid of him. So a guy who you can take on your major league team. I don't think he's going to hit above the league average. I don't think he's a 100 weighted runs created plus guy. But if he plays really good defense and he's super versatile, you can use that on a big league club.
I know a lot of fans are excited for a glove first infielder. They also got Andres Jimenez, like you mentioned. He's probably going to be the shortstop, I would think, following this year, assuming Bo Bichette leaves in free agency, or maybe they stay. Obviously, we don't really know yet. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. I've been following him for a bit. I don't get too excited about glove first prospects, but that's only because I feel like I've been spoiled as a Jays fan with just glove first play over the past few years since that Dalton Varsho trade. But an interesting guy. And Alan Roden, and there's going to be a lot of discourse about Alan Roden because Ross Atkins came out and directly praised him, but also he is probably going to be the guy to look out for the most when it comes to position players in spring training over the next few weeks before the season starts here. And I was very excited to get your thoughts on Alan Roden and where you think he will break camp. Will he break it with the major league team? And if so, where does he slot in? Because we also have the outfield right now in a bit of an interesting spot with Dalton Varsho missing the start of a season. We'll probably do another video on this as well. But regarding Alan Roden, what do you think his likely outcome is over the next, not only like years, but literally the next few weeks and months as spring training gets underway and regular season starts in a month and a bit?
I think they're going to really, really want him to break camp, but I think you light a fire under Alan Roden, but that also in turn lights the fire under David Schneider and Joey Loperfido. You're going to need someone to play an outfield spot for the first little bit. I mean, you have Nathan Lucas too. I don't think anyone's going to be too excited to see Nathan Lucas on an opening day roster or even Miles Straw. No one's going to want to see that. So I think everyone, if you're watching spring training, you want Alan Roden to take what would be like a left field kind of job. He's like a super sneaky athletic guy, which they like to say for the white guys when you're playing those, but he creates like some super interesting body angles with his lower half to get to some low pitches. And that leads to a lot of ground balls. Like maybe we need to stay away from some of the low stuff, but he's going to do kind of the Kirk thing where you just got to hit the liners over the infielders and then spray it down the line. I just will pray for some more power from Alan Roden, and on base percentage has been his calling card through the minors. He's like 11+% walk rate guy. When you get to your first stint in the majors, it pretty much just gets slashed in half. So I'm not going to expect a 400 on base from Alan Roden in his first little stint. But again, 136 weighted runs created plus between AA and AAA last year. That's a very good hitter who can play some good defense as well. So I think you want him to break camp. I'm going to say he doesn't break camp with the team, but he has a Spencer Horwitz-like season where he's super, super valuable for this team.
Yeah, I think getting Loperfido in the Kikuchi trade probably pushes his debut back a little bit. I mean, you mentioned they also have Miles Straw, who they're going to probably proclaim as a great, I mean, he is very good defensively, can't hit the ball at all. They probably start opening day with Joey Loperfido in center field and then go from there. And you can see his stats there at the bottom. He hits throughout his entire career, whether it be in college and, of course, like you mentioned, between A, double A, even triple A. He's been phenomenal.
Yeah,
And
he was
hopefully,
good.
yeah, hopefully if he gets and breaks camp at the MLB, we'll see we'll see a repeat of the Davis Schneider MLB performance, which is hopefully he could sustain it longer, even no one's going to hit that. But one last guy I want to talk about, and this is one that I'm not sure a ton of Jays fans are super familiar with. I haven't brought him up on the channel. And it is Ryan Jennings. Now, you might look at the stats and be very impressed. He's 25 years old. Last season, between A+ and Scottsdale, he put up a 0.9 ERA. And this is a good call by you. And I'm very curious to see where you think he factors in, because this is once again a situation where he is older. I almost call it like the Spencer Horwitz situation, in the sense that they've been down for a while. They've seen some success over the past couple of years. And once they get called up, I assume he's ready at any point here to be some sort of contributor, especially with the lack of starting pitching depth that the Jays have. Even though they're starting to get a little bit better, they obviously Max Scherzer this year to help play the number 5 spot. Alek Manoah is going to come back August-ish. You have Bowden Francis hoping to repeat a good season last year. But this is an interesting guy. Where do you see him playing?
So I unfortunately think Ryan Jennings is a bullpen guy. He started some last year, but the last 2 seasons, elbow injuries for Ryan Jennings. So he gets to double A this year. He had started all of his games in A. He's 2 years older than the average player in A. He just dominated that league. Like a 2.2 or 2.1 ERA as a starter is fantastic. But he was unk at that point. He was way too old for that level. They moved him up, elbow injury, and then he was really good when he was in the bullpen. He got a chance in the Arizona Fall League to extend his innings as well, and he didn't give up a single run in the Arizona Fall League. It's a guy who's going to be mid to high 90s, good slider, good splitter too. I think it's a guy who can get reliever innings. He's going to be up with the team as the reliever as his first chance. Don't think they're going to make him a starter. That it's a pretty good arm that you might want to take the chance on. He might get the chance, but I think Ryan Jennings is someone that could get some good major league innings this year.
Yeah, I think I agree. He's gonna be one of those guys we'll probably see in the middle of the year, if injuries. I mean, injuries inevitably happen, but the bullpen now is also sneaky good and super deep. We also saw Matt Burns signing the other day, and it's gonna be very interesting to see. Any final thoughts here before we wrap up? It's a lot of different prospects going around the board here. If you have one guy to look out for as we are approaching the first spring training games in the next few days, who's one guy that you want to pencil in as the guy to watch, so you can look really smart if he mashes?
I won't go Mash. I'll go Ryan Jennings is the guy
Okay.
you want to watch. I think they're pretty set with their prospects. We're going to know a lot of the hitting prospects, I think. So let's go Ryan Jennings in the bullpen. And then my favorite guy who's going to pitch is going to be Carson Messina. Like really his first pro outings are going to be this season. That's the name I want to watch out for, a guy that they signed away from school for good money here in the draft.
Yep. It's going to be a very exciting. I mean, obviously, a lot of Jays fans, I know you guys, I see it down below. You aren't excited about spring training, but nonetheless, there's a lot of competition going around. So let us know down below what your thoughts are on these prospects. And also let us know down below if you want to see more of Avery here on the channel. Thanks again. The link will be in the description if you want to check out what they do at K14. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.